Gentlemen, ladies even as well, coming off of a Friday night, it's Saturday morning. Hopefully your Friday night wasn't impacted by this. Like I said, both genders of you, male and female. More than 40% of people will need technological help conceiving children by 2050, experts predict. Provocative book claims everywhere chemicals have driven sperm counts down by more than 50% in the past 40 years. Dr. Shanna Swan is the foremost expert on fertility at the Icahn School of Medicine in Mount Sinai in New York. Her new book, Countdown, Countdown, yeah, I get it, predicts that a large share of the world's human population will not be able to reproduce on their own by 2050. We'll see if they distinguish kind of Western or more first world versus third world even. Not even so much Western versus East, but first versus third world. Just, if she's talking about chemicals, we'll see how that really is impacted between the two if they talk about that. Her 2017 study found that sperm counts declined by more than 50% between 1973 and 2011. At a rate of a little over 1% per year. CDC estimated that 9% of men were infertile in 2018, so Dr. Swan's study suggests that rate would rise to 41% by 2050. Although fertility is complex, Dr. Swan theorizes that everywhere chemicals called phytolates, did I get that right? Who knows? Phytolates, which are used in countless products, are driving the trend. So phytolates, that's the problem. Let's see what she's talking about. Human life has transformed profoundly and is changing exponentially faster over the short 200,000 years since man has walked the earth. But for a vast majority of humans, reproduction hasn't changed much. Only about 1.9% of all babies born in the US were conceived using artificial reproductive technology. By 2050, that will change, claims Dr. Shanna Swan in a provocative new book, Countdown, How Our Modern World is Threatening Sperm Counts, Altering Male and Female Reproductive Development, and Imperiling the Future of the Human Race. Take a look at this book cover here. How Our Modern World is Threatening Sperm Counts, Altering Male and Female, and she does the countdown, and she's got the O as in 0, I'd imagine. Dr. Swan, a renowned environmental and reproductive epidemiologist at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, predicts that by then, a large proportion of the people around the world will not be able to conceive without technological assistance. That will be the result of declining sperm count among men around the world, she says. Dr. Swan is also the author of a groundbreaking 2017 study that revealed that sperm counts around the world have fallen by more than half over the past 4 decades. Side note real quick, there was a video I was watching, maybe it was 6 months ago, maybe a little bit more recent, so I don't exactly recall what it was, but they were testing, I believe it was testosterone, I don't believe it was a sperm count, I could be wrong, but they were testing it in several individuals. And what they found, again this is rough because it was several months ago, but they found that, and these were young guys, they were in their 20s. They found that those individuals in their 20s, their count, and I believe it was testosterone, but the count was lower now for them than it was for individuals over 60 who were tested several decades prior. So the testosterone counts for young people now are a lot lower than they were for an older man several decades ago. So this follows that same kind of logic. And all signs suggest the downward trajectory will only continue in the decades to come. There are many drivers of infertility, but Dr. Swan has homed in on a sneaky prime suspect, household chemicals called phytolates. I know, I'm sure if you're listening to this point, you're like, well, what else? Tell me about it. Come on, tell me about how to correct this stuff. Phytolates are in all manner of products. They make plastics pliable. They make it possible for our skin to absorb lotion, and they help make food packaging like cellophane stretchy and airtight. But they seep from these packages into our food and into our bodies, where they do something much more insidious, disrupting the endocrine system that controls hormones, including testosterone. Dr. Swan and many other scientists believe that this is a primary drive of men's plummeting sperm counts. Her 2017 study showed a shocking decline in men's sperm count, especially among Western men. So there you go, Western men. Men that have a sperm count below 15 million sperm per ml, is that milliliter, maybe microliter, or 39 million per ejaculate, are at risk of being infertile, according to the Mayo Clinic, although the shape and motility, or movement, of the sperm matter too. Sperm lives matter. 1 in 7 couples in the US are already estimated to be infertile as a result of fertility issues contributed by one or both partners. Individually, about 9% of men were estimated to be infertile already in 2018, the CDC's latest estimate. That's far more than were infertile in 2017, according to Dr. Swan's 2017 study. She found that sperm counts among Western men had declined by nearly 60% between 1973 and 2011. And what I was talking about at the onset of the video, what my thought process was if she's saying these chemicals were having this impact, I was thinking it was more of a first world thing. They say Western here, but when you have a poorer nation, third world nation, wherever that may be, they don't have these things that we do. If this is true, these cellophane wrapped meats that they can just go to the supermarket and get. So it's logical that if this were true, that you would definitely see their numbers higher in places that don't have these conveniences like we do. Conveniences that lead to inconveniences. On average, sperm counts declined by a little more than 1% each year. At that rate, the share of men who are infertile would now be around 12%. And if that continues, by 2050, 41% of men will be infertile. As sperm counts and quality continue to decline, much of the population will be forced to use assisted reproductive technology, ART. Dr. Swan told Daily Mail. She calls this outcome a third step in a cascade of issues. Preceding that, you have to start with the decline of sperm counts and semen quality, including decreased fertility, and the fact that if men's sperm counts get really low, your only option really is to use assistive reproductive technology, Dr. Swan said. Her study shows that sperm counts have been declining since at least 1973, but few of its scale had been done before, so it's hard to say when things really started to turn downwards. Phytolates were invented in the 1920s and became commercially available. In 1931, they started out mainly being used in PVC, a tough but stretchy plastic, and products like insect repellent. But they've exploded since then. They're in your beauty products, including shampoo, nail polish, and sanitary pads. They're in faux wood flooring made of vinyl. They're in IV bags and shower curtains, oils, detergents, and likely any food wrapped in plastic. So you would think that that would have some impact on women as well. And they're probably in you. A CDC study that measured the metabolites of the phthalates in Americans between 2003 and 2004 found measurable levels of many phthalate metabolites in the general population. The agency actually found that levels in women were even higher than in men. There you go. Likely due to the presence of the chemicals in shampoo and cosmetics. And that's why I mentioned females, because when they were talking about that, the beauty products, I instantly thought of the females. CDC researchers noted that the detection of these chemicals doesn't necessarily mean that they are harming someone. But Dr. Swan's research suggests that while ingesting or otherwise absorbing phthalates at the low but daily levels most of us do, may have subtle effects that are easily conflated for other issues. Factors like obesity and exercise also have a demonstrated effect on fertility in both men and women. Okay, so that's what I was looking for. I wanted to see if there was more. Obviously, we don't expect just one thing to contribute fully, but I wanted to see if they cited some other things here in terms of how the research was done and the results of the study. Asked by Future Human, how much phthalates are contributing to men's fertility decline versus obesity and other factors that are on the rise, Dr. Swan explained that we don't know yet, but they are likely intertwined. That's a great question, and I don't know how to answer that. I believe, based on my work, that it is substantial, she said, But even the lifestyle factors that appear to be quite different from these chemicals are not really that different. For example, one lifestyle factor that affects fertility is obesity. A number of these chemicals are obesogens. They cause obesity, they interfere with the hormones that are related to sanitation and metabolism. They make us more likely to get fat, and so obesity is on the pathway between exposure and infertility. She also added that men who work jobs involving BPA, a type of phthalate used in food packaging, had higher rates of ED, while women who had higher rates of the chemicals in their bloodstreams were more likely to say they were sexually unsatisfied. That's interesting. We got to do a deep dig into the data on that one. Many signs point to the effects of the phthalates on sex, but what exactly are they doing? The phthalates seem to disrupt a circuit that exists between two parts of the brain of male and female reproductive organs. It's known as the HPG axis for the hypothalamus and pituitary glands, hormone-regulating parts of the brain, and the gonads, which are the testes in the man or the ovaries in the woman. It's getting a little deep here, so we might have to wrap it up right here. There's only a little bit more to this article. Let me just read this last part here. It says, this circuit controls a tight feedback loop that produces sex hormones that play critical roles in sex drive and reproduction, and also come right back to the HPG axis and help regulate it. Oh, physiology class. Whew, the memories of that class 25 years ago in college kicked my butt. We moved ahead a little bit just so she can wrap it up. That was getting a little too heady for me. Trust the science though, right? The chemicals are out there and they're not going away. But she's shown that if you take a male who's been exposed and you stop the exposure, it will take 3 to 4 generations. But they will be back to reproductive health. Wow, that is a long time. She calls this good news, but it requires that the phthalates be eliminated. And since we're nowhere near that, fertility stands to suffer in the future, and already is, Dr. Swan said. I think it's a major problem. For example, the rate of surrogacy has gone up. The rate of assisted reproduction has gone up, she told Future Human. More and more, we're leaning on those technological solutions to have children. And I don't think people are completely happy with reproducing that way. A couple comments real quick. This has got to stop. Good. There's far too many of us. Whenever somebody says that, I would always offer the reply, well, if there's too many of us, you have the ability, this Northern Sky individual from the UK, has the ability to ensure that there's one less of us. Will they step up and do what's needed to be done to ensure that civilization moves forward, that we as humans maintain our place in this world? Will this person step up and make sure that there's one less of us so future generations can be better off? I would argue that it was the advent of the pill that caused so much infertility. Young women on the pill for far too long made it difficult for them to conceive when they came off it. That could be true, I don't know, but that seemingly would be something else on top of this. Who cares at this rate? We'll all be gone by 2050. Won't be long before babies are all conceived and born in test tubes and labs. How do we know that all these vaccinations won't affect fertility? I was wondering if somebody was going to go ahead and talk about that. Oh wait, the race to have the jab won't help either. So we've got a couple of those things going on. All right, everybody, that's the article. Hopefully, as I said, your Friday night went well, that it went really well. And hopefully your Saturday night goes just as well and you don't have any of these problems. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care, have a good weekend, and be well.